Hello and welcome back to the Chelsea Echo and welcome to your match preview of Chelsea versus Wolves, the 8 p.m. kickoff at Stamford Bridge on Saturday night. It is myself, Louis Beneventi,
It's myself, Daniel Childs.
and we are here to give you everything you need to know about that game. Obviously, look a little bit back at the game against Tesco Bag for Life, and then also give our thoughts on what your 11 should be heading into the fixture against Wolves. But Dan, let's kick off, right? I've got a little bit of trivia for you, and for everyone to be involved.
Okay.
Now, Chelsea Chatter posted this today, and I want you to tell me what connects all the players in this Chelsea lineup. So, it's a 4-4-2. Baker in goal. Alonso, Terry, Webb, Ivanovic, Hazard, Wise, Lampard, Spence, Tambling, and Dixon. What connects all of these players?
Scored against Wolves.
No. On the right line, though. Do you want me to go through it one more
Hmm.
time?
It can't be because they've played for Wolves, because Ivanovic didn't play for Wolves.
No.
Um,
Baker, Alonso, Terry, Webb, Ivanovic, Hazard, Wise, Lampard, Spence, Tambling, Dixon. There's your other clue. There are a few names there where I kind of really emphasised it.
Dick, you emphasised Dixon, right?
Uh-huh.
They scored their first goal for Chelsea against Wolves.
No, no, you're getting warmer.
Um, they scored like their second Chelsea goal against Wolves.
Do you give up? Do you want me to just tell you?
Yeah, I mean, it's painful. Just give up.
These are all players that are the highest scoring in their position for Chelsea.
Oh, okay,
I
fair
saw
enough.
that and I thought it was a good bit of trivia that Chelsea Chatter put out. I was like, ooh, I like that. Fair play. I'm going to have some of that. Still hasn't followed me back, but you know what? It's all right. You can't win them all. Uh, but yeah, anyway, that was the bit of trivia. I'm sure some people were very, very shit hot on that in comparison to Dan, who was definitely not. But we should probably jump into it first. Let's talk about Karabag because we have to. I mean, I don't know about you, Dan, but I wasn't particularly impressed by that performance.
No, I don't really know, and I think it's quite frustrating. Like the day later, discussing with people who I respect, and you can see some of the discussions I had on X with people, where I just don't really get how it's not a bad result, and it's definitely a bad result. Is it the worst performance we've ever seen? No, but like, and even if the bad part of it was like only really for 10 minutes, if you really want to like
Mm.
simplify the analysis of the game, it's just it was just unfortunately just a regression back to our feelings post Wolves, our feelings post Sunderland. Another frustrating. It was like this. I think the worst thing about it is like the Spurs performance didn't happen at all. And that's the thing that is a bit frustrating. That the
Mm.
Spurs performance and momentum from that seem to bear absolutely no relevance. But I think that's not a massive shock for reasons we've talked about, I think, on the podcast before.
Mm. Yeah, I think for me, I look at it and it's footballing basics, which I don't quite understand. So I appreciate going to Azerbaijan, you're going to rotate the team, right? But for me, that wasn't the biggest problem when everyone was kicking off about how Chelsea rotate too much. I think it just
That's
shows the
been the big
significant.
debate this week, hasn't it?
Yeah,
Rotation. This is like
yeah.
rotation, rotation, rotation.
I do think there has been games where he has rotated far too much. However, a long way to go to Azerbaijan. I get it. It makes sense. You look at every other team that's gone out to play Karabag in the past, and not just us. You look at Man City that have done it. You look at Arsenal. Look at all these teams that have flown to Baku. We've all had to rotate. So
Yeah.
it's not like that's the biggest issue. the biggest issue, it just shows the significant lack of quality in depth in this squad. And I was saying on the final score show after the game, which by the way everyone should tune into on X just to sort of get to grips with it. And obviously it's always worth a good listen. I was quite flat because I raised that and I kind of go, well, the fact that we can't beat Karabakh, who I appreciate have maybe had a better season in the Champions League this year. I mean, they drew with us, they've beaten Benfica. You know, they've not done terribly, but again, all due respect, it's the Azerbaijani champions. It's not like we're playing Real Madrid here. You know
No.
that we made hard work of that when we didn't really need to, and it just showed that after an outlay of over £1 billion, Chelsea still don't have a squad which can comfortably beat them, which I find mental.
But I think we could have beaten them. I think that the problem for me is that, I mean, arguably the performances of the players he brought in were indictment enough to come to the conclusion that you have, right, that the squad isn't strong enough. But there was also a major part of me that goes, he didn't have to put Jarell Hatter at left centre back and Tosin as right centre back,
That's true.
and he had this wasn't a situation like before the Liverpool game where like our defensive options had become so stretched that there's kind of no way around it. Players suspended, players injured. That if that was like the only feasible back two he could have fielded, and it went like the way it was, yeah, sure, I would have. My energy would have been more looking at the individual underperformance than
Hmm.
the selection. The problem with the selection is you have Trev Chalobah and Josh Achipom at least on your bench. I mean, I never thought he was going to play for Fana, start for Fana in 2 games in a row. It would have been silly to do that. But you had two players there who I think would have done a more competent job. And it's like, it's basic selection blunders like that I just kind of feel like we should be beyond by now. Where,
But in defence to that, right? Joro Hato, you and I have been saying, oh, well, let's try him at left centre back. And
yeah,
realistically,
but
this was a game where you test it, wouldn't it be? Like you think about it, like you
no,
should be beating.
I think that Jarell Hato, yeah, we've said that right, but like that's a nice bonus that he has as a player. I think you use that in emergency situations when others aren't available. The context, the key context is I don't mind playing Jarell Hato as a left centre back if you've got real limited options,
Right.
and then you play him there. It's that I'm not against playing Jarell Hato there. And Jarell Hato, like objectively, individually, had a way below par performance. I mean, it was one of those real individual performances that you get flashbacks like Bakayoko, Malang Sarr.
Yeah.
Um, Malang Sarr is the one for me as a centre back because I don't know if you. It was a game against Arsenal where it was like
Yeah.
any time the ball came in his like in his eyesight, like basically like around his area, his zone. He looked absolutely petrified of the ball, and it slightly reminded me of that with Jarell Hato. And he did get a little bit unlucky with the penalty, right? Because in the Premier League, that's not being given as a penalty. The
Hmm.
UEFA ruling on handballs is a lot harsher than the Premier League handling of rules on handballs. And even then, like I don't know if you saw the Liverpool Real Madrid game the night before, I think it was, where they spent a long time VAR looking at a handball for Chouameni that was also from a similar distance, and they said that's not a penalty. So even in the Champions League, they're a little bit inconsistent. But again, I was having a disagreement with Rob Pratley about this, and like he was saying, well, it's unlucky, right? But I'm like, I'd take that bad fortune a lot more seriously into consideration for my criticism and lessen my criticism if our overall performance level and those defenders' performance level was a lot better. If they've
Yeah.
been performing adequately and competently and we were 1-0 up and then that happens, I think the energy from most people would have just been like on the referee rather than on the fact that it
Yeah.
compounded a period of the game where Chelsea just had absolutely no control, and both centre backs, Tosin, who's looked all at sea for a number of games now, and Hato really kept doing this thing where he seemed to completely misjudge the speed of the attacker he was against. There was a time earlier in the game where do you know when the defenders try to shield the ball back to the
Yeah.
goalkeeper? and
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
either
yeah.
misjudging the speed of the ball or misjudging how quick the opposing player is against him, and that's kind of directly what led to the equalizer. That precise kind of moment.
Mm,
So I just want to say I think rotation for me is an overblown and simplistic way of talking about this issue. For me, it's selection. It's you didn't
mm.
have to make those two selections, and in a 10-minute
Yeah.
period, it's not just a 10-minute period because Chelsea could have conceded in other parts of the game as well. But that's what's cost you 2 extra points, and it could be costly for
Well, this
qualification.
this this is the big worry for me. Um, what I find mental with that is I am now less worried about playing Barcelona than I am
Yeah,
about playing Wolves, which is which is
yeah,
which is ridiculous, right? You think you're playing one of the best teams in the world, and that
mm,
Chelsea are going to really struggle against that because we talked about selection issues and all that sort of stuff. But realistically, Chelsea are going to have their strongest team available for that, and Chelsea's strongest team against Barcelona and how they play with a high line and how they're always on the looking to go on the offensive plays right into Chelsea's hands. Where you'd like to think that Chelsea are going to take advantage of that, but as soon
yeah,
as it comes to playing against Karabag, who've hit on the counter, Wolves that hit on the counter, Sunderland that hit on the counter, Crystal Palace that hit on the counter, all these teams. When he's sitting there and he's going, I need to get my analyst to look at this. I'm like, no, Enzo, use your fucking eyes. You played professional football to a very high standard. You've coached to a very high standard. You should know what you're looking at here. But it's the over scientific nature again. And like you said, I get what you're saying. I disagree about emergency situations because when you're playing Grimsby in the cup or you're playing Karabag, again, all due respect to Karabag, that is an opportunity where I go, okay, Juro Hato, 19, 20 years of age, he can play as a centre back. Let's see what he can do. Like we can test this out in this game. I'd prefer to do that than playing Liverpool going, shit, we don't have a centre back. Right, let's put him in there. And it's like a baptism of fire. I prefer to see if he can do it in the games that don't quote unquote
yeah.
matter as
No,
much.
no. I mean, I would agree with the idea that Karabag this season and Grimsby are comparable. I think they aren't comparable.
For one bit
Um,
United 5-0 or something ridiculous. Obviously,
on
there wasn't
yeah,
penalties. I know it was
yeah, yeah,
penalty.
but MK Dons once smashed Man United 4
Yeah,
nil.
look, this is what I mean. This is what I
Yeah,
mean. But like,
no, I get what you're saying, right? But I think again, it all comes back to my view is just context of where
mm,
you are, where you've been, what the previous game had been as well. Josh Achimom didn't play at all against Spurs. Did not
mm,
play at all against Spurs. So the argument that if Josh Achimom had played on Saturday, but even then, Fafana could have played this game. I just in September when we had more limited options at centre back, just in terms of availability, it just it meant you played Cucurella again when you could have rested Cucurella. Actually, everyone talks about rotation. The team you put out was a lot stronger than I predicted it was going to be.
yeah,
Rob Sanchez started. I wanted Rob Sanchez to start, but there was a risk that he was going to play Jorgensen because he's done it before. Cucurella started. Reece James started. Joao Pedro started. Eventually, Caicedo quickly had to come off the bench for Lavia. I know that wasn't his original intention,
yeah. We've
but
got to talk about that.
the idea this was a again rotation. Like Gittins played well against Ajax, played well against Wolves. Tyreek George had played well against Wolves before. I just disagree that like it's like the Club World Cup excuse. Like it comes out when we don't win a game. Rotation. We made 10 changes against Ajax, smashed them 5-1. We made a similar, I think, amount of changes against Wolves. We beat them. We've made similar number of changes before. We've won games. Um, that's not the issue. I think the rest of the team wasn't that bad. It's just you look at it and you wait to see what plays out, and also just it was abundantly clear within like the opening 20 minutes this is not going well. Even before they scored their 2 goals,
Mm,
alarm bells were ringing, and I know Maresca is, and a lot of coaches, right? They don't want to do the whole like I'm singling you out and taking you off. But I don't know. I just looked at that situation and I was just like, I just can't accept that that was the right back two. And I'm not saying it in hindsight. I just, even when the team came out, I was a little bit miffed by it. I have to say, like, I just, And then because Tosin's played, it's more actually going into the game. Tosin was the bigger concern for me, and I
Yeah,
think actually what made Hato's performance worse was Tosin.
yeah,
That may sound unfair, but Tosin's form at the moment is so bad, and he's so out of the game. He just doesn't. The game's happening around him constantly. He just seems, and I think that you talked about bedding Hato into that position. I think if you have Trev next to him, or even Josh Achimpong. I know he's a young player, but I just that probably would have
filled
meant
you with
that
more confidence, basically.
Chelsea's defense had a bit more had way more mobility in it, a bit more assurance in it, a bit more comfort on the
Yeah,
ball. But then Carabao couldn't just hit. This is the problem at the moment. A ball can just when Tosin's on the pitch, the ball can just be hit round the corner of either our sides at the moment, and especially direct. And there are at least multiple times in a game where they're going to get some joy, and
hmm,
that is a real flaw. So I have sympathy for Hato. Tosin's not in a good moment, but I didn't look at the coach and go, you didn't have to create that cocktail that then created the chaos we saw on the pitch.
yeah. Well, yeah, and I do think that's something which Maresca needs to be held accountable for. I get what you're saying. I think Uriel Hato's a bad example, but like you're right about Tosin. You're right about the midfield. I mean, look, let's before we move on to obviously the Wolves game and what worries are and what the positives are as well, because there are positives which we do need to talk about. I think it's unfair for us to just be moaning constantly because that's one thing that I have been pulled up on about you and I, Dan. Is apparently we just moan. Um, but
Yeah, sorry, can we just it's within the context of what we've just seen.
yeah,
Go back and watch us post the Club World Cup final. Go back and watch and listen to what we have to say post Liverpool. Go back and I know obviously we didn't do a podcast straight after, but listen to our voice note reviews post Spurs. Um, and listen to what I say post games on my channel and what we write and what we react to. I don't think we are an unfair reflection on how people react anecdotally, and that's not a broad spectrum of Chelsea fans. But what do you want us to do post Carabag? Like again, we can all be dishonest, and we can all sit here and hold hands and sing kumbaya and say everything's going to be great. I mean, maybe some Clear Lake stands would like us to do that consistently, but it doesn't make for a very interesting pod, and it doesn't. I mean, there's no point doing it, right? Like, there's no point doing it if we both sit here and just say everything's great all the time. There's also no point doing it if we sit here and say everything's crap all the time, which we don't. I think a lot of our podcasts bring that balance, and you and me disagree about things consistently. So no, I don't. Yeah, there's moaning, but like it's also like football fans moan. Like I mean,
that's our job. That's what we do.
I mean, I just have you not met a football fan before? Um, and I find that puzzling. Like if we'd smashed Karabag 5-0, we would not be sat here moaning, would we? We
No,
would just would like it would be stupid if we were sat here moaning. And I don't moaning means it's like irrational. What we're doing is criticizing, which I think many people just can't seem to accept. Like in their people
yeah.
can't accept and be critical of the club. Like it's like and I have no time for those people anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, this is it, and I do think like that's something we need to raise. And one thing which kind of comes into that as a point of discussion is Romeo Lavia. Now, Romeo Lavia injured again. Enzo Maresca doesn't have an update on him, which I guess just means that he's gone again, and he falls now.
He's gone. They lost
Uh,
him.
he's like, I'm honestly like, I'd leave him at this point. I'm like, just mate, like we pay your health bills, right? You pay your booper, figure it out, get back how you can. I'm done with it. I'm actually done with Romeo Lavia. I don't care how good he is as a player. He falls into the Wesley Fofana camp for me of the best. But I think one thing that I think the score said to me afterwards, I say the best ability is availability. And he goes, yeah, well, there are shit players that are available all the time. Yeah, there are, but there are also very good players who are regularly available and important to teams. When people turn around, and again, this is when we talk about um, always being happy-go-lucky and all this sort of stuff. When I sit here and people go, "Oh, what's the strongest Chelsea?" and they go, "Oh, Wesley Fofana, Romeo Lavia," I'm like, "Well, you've not seen them fucking play enough to comment on that. Like, have they played? Like, do you count them in a team that doesn't play? Like, I just look at it and I'm so done with it that I'm tired of this consistent talk about how good he is as a player because he's now been at Chelsea. This will be his third season at Chelsea or
Yeah,
second? His third
third,
season.
third.
Okay. Where's Romeo Lavia? Let me just check how many games he's played for Chelsea overall. Right. This is very very important. Uh, how many games uh, has Romeo Lavia played for Chelsea? Okay. Romeo Lavia has made 18 starts in his Chelsea career. 18. And he has never completed a full 90.
Yeah, I was
So,
waiting to hear that.
fucking pardon me. So I know I've swearing a lot more than usual, Dan, but I'm very passionate about this, right? Fucking pardon me if you're telling me that he's one of the strongest players in a Chelsea 11. He cannot complete 90 minutes and has started 18 times. But we've won 11 of the games he started. 11 games in 3 seasons. We played 60 last year. We played 45 the year before. We played 50 the year before that, roughly. Let's just even it out and say 150 games. I know it's less, but let's call it
He did.
150
I
games.
mean, he
11.
played. What was it? I think you may have been there as well. I remember the Palace game where I think it was Palace just after Christmas in his first season under Pochettino. That was like, and he got re-injured in that game as well. So that was what in his first season at Chelsea, he played what about 30 minutes,
If that,
if
if
that.
that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I am someone of the belief that I do think Romeo Lavia is a very talented and effective midfielder when he plays for Chelsea. But as we always said, and it was the conversation we had about Reece for a long period of time, is that it all becomes theoretical, right? It all becomes, well, like if he's fit for more than like 2 weeks at a time, we're going to have this magical football team. And the reality is, yeah, like as a coach, Enzo Maresca, like the debate around rotation at the moment. The thing about rotation is you have to have players waiting in the wings that you can rely upon
Yeah.
when the fixture list becomes congested. And it's a real shame that Dario Sugo got injured as well, because I think he would have gained a lot more minutes this season as well. But Lavia, I'm always sympathetic for a player and their struggle with injury. Like I can't believe that these players, when they get these injury problems and their careers, especially for young players, are getting halted over and over and over again.
Hmm.
It must take a mental toll. I know Reece James said as much. Like the setbacks to get into rehab, thinking you're there, and then you get hit by another setback. Um, and I think that Reece James is a great example that you can overcome these things. There was a time, literally, I wrote about this on my Substack this week, specifically about Reece James, that like a year ago, we were sat here having the same conversation about Reece James. Now, the difference between Reece James and Romeo Lavia is that, as you said, Lavia doesn't have much, if any, kind of real substantial evidence of him
Hmm.
being fit for a long period of time at Chelsea or him being involved in something massive for Chelsea. So I think people's patience level isn't really there, because it's not like we're going back to something. I think with Reece, it was like, can we get back to 2021? Right, that was the season when we won the Champions League
Well,
and he
yeah, you
played.
think
I
about
think
that.
most.
Yeah.
You were like, if we can get back to that, so he doesn't have that, and it's just, yeah, it's just a real shame. But I completely agree with you that like availability is such a key ingredient. It shouldn't need to be said, but it is just true that if you can't play more than 3 or 4 weeks a season. And the bizarre thing about Lavia is, I think sometimes, despite playing only 3 weeks a season or like a couple of games each season, he plays, I think, at most to a really high level at times, which is bizarre. But if you can't do that, you can't be trusted. If you can't be trusted, then it limits your rotation options. And that means that from a squad building point of view, Chelsea then have to start, in my opinion, mitigating that. They have to
Mm.
look at alternative routes, because you can't have a scenario in any position on the pitch, especially if you if people consider Lavia a key player, which I don't really think he is, because
You can't be.
even in
Physically
even in the
can't be.
current even in the current midfield, like I mean, I think Enzo Fernandez is a lot better than he was a year ago. He's still starting above Romeo Lavia for me. Um, and Moises Caicedo is always going to start most,
Well, if
if not all, Chelsea games.
just just to build that out, you think about the squad. I mean, look, I'm going to play this out as he's fit all the time. I'm going to have this pointless conversation, which everyone has, just to prove how pointless it is, right? My team, if he was fully fit and he was available and he's amazing, because I agree, he's a very technical, talented player, great, right? I'd play him and Caicedo and Enzo. I play him. I play him at the base. I play Caicedo as like a roamer, and Enzo's a bit further forward. And then you put Carpar on the right hand side. But then if you do that, then you've got Pedro Neto, you've got Quenda coming, you've got this, and it's like it just does. He can't be a key component because he's not fit enough. He completely disbalances the balance of the team that's already been being built, and I just can't, I'm very very much like when he came off the other day. I was in the kitchen making dinner, and I was listening to it as it went on, um, and I just hear, oh no, Lavia's pulled up, and I go, right, forget it. I hear that, and I'm like, pfft. I know it's very dismissive, and I'm with you, Dan, when you say, look, you don't want these players to get injured. You think that that's it just completely ruins things, and they're obviously not going to be feeling good about it. But it's like you can't have. I don't care how good that player is, it becomes irrelevant to the conversation. We're sounding like Arsenal fans during that period. Oh, Jack Wilshere is such a good midfielder. Oh, Abu Diaby, he's such a good midfielder. They're not fit. Yes, they're
Mm.
talented, but they're not fit. If you're not fit, I don't want to hear you in the conversations like there were with Jack Wilshere about, oh, he's going to be as good as Lampard, Gerrard, or Scholes. He's going to be this, he's going to be that. It's like, yeah, he can be if he stays fit. And guess what? He ain't staying fit. So if he ain't staying fit, shut the fuck up.
Mm.
That's where I'm at with all of this.
Yeah, no, it is frustrating. It's just from again, I think you have to go back to what's directly in front of you, and I think that the problem with Lavia is it's a similar story. It doesn't mean he can't overcome it, but for the time being, Chelsea have to find alternative solutions. Like they have to plan around a scenario where he isn't going to be fit for long periods, and
What
that
would you do?
means
What's your alternative solution? Because that's one thing we do when everyone says we moan. We actually give alternative solutions. No one else does.
yeah. I mean, we're still kind of unclear how long it's going to take Asugo to return.
They're saying
Um,
January.
January. So actually, that if you think about it, it's not that far away. But obviously, there are a lot of games between now and January. So, um, I mean, you can't if you go by the feeling that there's no signings till January. I'm always a big advocate where you can to promote from the academy. Now, this is not saying that this is a comparable replacement, but I just think it'd be nice to, because he's already been around the first team. Again, Reggie Walsh has played some minutes. I think that like you'd bring him
Love
up, you try and get him minutes off the bench, alleviate the stress on say Santos. It probably means that Santos plays a lot more minutes, which I don't think is a bad thing. Probably if it evens out in terms of fixtures. In January, I mean, we're not going to sign Adam Wharton in January. I saw someone say that, like, Adam Wharton's not leaving Palace mid-season. It's just not happening for the money. Um, Maybe in the summer, I don't know. But again, you have to factor in that Chelsea, I feel like I forget if we've signed someone or if someone coming back from loan in that position because we signed so many players.
There's not.
Um,
I've checked. I've checked
yeah,
because my
so
yeah.
yeah, you got so you do have a Sugo eventually returning, so that is a midfield option. And again, it's a shame he broke down so quickly because we never got a chance to judge where his level is. Like, is he
Yeah,
able to stay fit longer? Is he actually a very good rotational option for Moises
yeah,
Caicedo? Until I
yeah.
see that, I can't really make it. You can't. throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, "Oh, Usugo's the same." Like Usugo's just arrived at Chelsea. We haven't seen enough of him to make a judgment where he is on like the spectrum of kind of fitness, quality, whatever.
You've not seen enough of Romeo Lavia to make that comment. No, we have seen enough of Romeo Lavia. We've seen it for 3 years. Sorry, I'm
Well,
just I'm
yeah,
not
well,
defending
we've
myself
seen
here.
we've seen enough of Lavia, yeah, breaking down. Like this is kind of the norm for Lavia. The It's actually the norm for Lavia to not be available. Like that, the as you just when you Google that, right? Like he's missed a majority of the game since Chelsea have bought him. And bought him for a decent chunk of money. So yeah, I feel sorry for the player. I hope he can return quickly. Um, I think the club are clearly managing these type of players a lot differently and more carefully. And then if you're still breaking down in that scenario, you kind of are at a loss for, well, what do you do next?
Well, this is it. I mean, for me, I like what you're saying about Reggie because I love Reginald. What a man
I'm
Reginald
not
is.
saying throw him into like big games. Like if it's more the
Reggie
only
can
other
do it.
alternative is Josh Achimpong playing. You could move him maybe in central midfield. He did that a
Uh,
little bit last season.
uh,
Uh, I mean, Trevor's even played there a little bit for Chelsea. Um,
no,
that's
see, what
kind of yeah.
what I'd be doing in January is I'd be going in for a loan with Kobe Mainu and have you almost have Caicedo as a guy that sits and Mainu as the one who goes. I think Kobe Mainu would be some good cover there, and he'd be on loan and be playing, which he's not doing at Man United. And obviously, Chelsea already do have a potential interest in him. And then in the summer, I'll be looking at either Adam Wharton or Elliot Anderson.
I
Which
think with
probably,
Kobe Mino, I don't think Man United would loan him. I think Chelsea would have to sign him.
which
I
then is
don't. I
causes a
don't.
problem financially because of the UEFA rules.
Yeah, I don't think Man United,
Mm,
uh, with their current form, like they think they can chase Champions League qualification, so they'd see that as like giving a rival a player. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not like those loads between those two clubs can't happen. We've seen it happen. But I'd just be quite surprised. But I do agree with you. Mino's one of those that you have to look at and go, he ain't playing. He needs a fresh start. Chelsea were linked with him last January, I think it was. But I don't know. I'd be quite surprised if we sign. They seem to be in the current model against signing permanently in January. Um, they kind of do all their big deals in the summer, their
yeah,
big permanent deals in the summer, and I think like the centre back thing, people will be calling for a centre back, and I still think the likelihood of them doing anything in centre back would be recalling either Anselmino or Sarr from
yeah,
Strasbourg.
yeah. So I'll be interested to see how that will develop. But obviously, guys, let us know your thoughts down in the comments and how you do things differently. We should probably look forward to Wolves now because we are halfway through the show. And obviously, Chelsea are facing a side which has just sacked their manager. They've just brought in a new one who's technically still actually under contract, by the way, which is mental because he signed his deal with Wolves until 2026, and then he got sacked by Wolves. I don't. It was Bournemouth. Bournemouth wasn't in between, was it? It was he left Wolves, and he's not had a job since, has he? Gary O'Neill.
Wait, wait, has it been another U-turn of Gary O'Neill?
Well, I thought the last I heard was that he was having conversations with
No,
them.
no, okay, no. No, he pulled out of the race. So I've just looked on Wolves' Twitter, and as I saw earlier, it's James Collins, the academy coach, is taking this game.
Hang on, James, as in James Collins, as in the guy that played for West Ham.
I don't think it is. No, he doesn't. His face doesn't look that familiar to me from what I could see on Wolves' Twitter. I think it's a different James Collins.
Oh no, this is a yeah no, it's not. It's another bald manager. He looks a bit like Steve King.
Mm.
Um,
I see
which
the winter ball is out. The winter ball is. How do you rate that winter ball?
it's not Nike, is it? I look as you know, I do like Puma. Like Puma is my it's got a little bit of a soft spot for me because the first Imperial Wolf kits were Puma kits. So
Mm.
I do like a bit of Puma, but I do look at the quality of the stuff they're putting out, and it looks very much like it's something I get at Decathlon, or it's not that much better than a Sondico, which I might
Mm.
be a bit harsh, but I'm a bit like, that's all right. I've just seen it's actually Rob Edwards who's apparently going to be in the hot seat potentially for, or they've asked for permission to speak to Middlesbrough to get him. So if Rob Edwards goes to Wolves, I feel like they're preparing for life in the Championship. So we'll have to see what
Mm.
happens with that. But look, there's going to be a new manager bounce coming to Stamford Bridge. Chelsea and new manager bounces aren't particularly wonderful, are they, Dan?
No, I mean it's a weird one because you always think like interim coaches, you're like it can go either way, can't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes
You
just
go
to
with
make
Bruno
acts of
Salto.
yeah, I mean in that incredible Bruno performance, people still talk about it, and he's still got it up on his wall in his office. Undefeated, clean sheet. Um, if only Havertz didn't handball it, he would have beaten Liverpool.
Oh, mate.
Um, but no, yeah, it's kind of like you're not quite sure what you're going to get from this Wolves team,
Yeah.
and they will be in a bit of limbo. But listen, this may go into territory of moaning again, but there's just no excuse. Like Chelsea have to be walking away from this game with maximum points. Like there's just
Yeah.
they're bottom of the Premier League. They've been in horrendous form, and Chelsea need to, even if they are playing a back five but back six, like Chelsea have to find a way past this game. They have to gain maximum points. They should be aiming to gain maximum points in the next two Premier League games before we face Arsenal at the end of this month. So I think it's a real test because if we just take the last run of games, Sunderland, I'd actually include Forest in this, right? Forest, Sunderland, Carabao, games against teams where Chelsea have been favoured to win. And the performance levels have been concerning at times. Um, so Maresca needs to find a way around a low block, no doubt, and prevent the second half collapse we saw at Molineux. Like Chelsea definitely collapsed in that second half, or at least were trying their best to collapse because obviously we still won the game. Um, so yeah, I do think there is a bit of tension, absolutely, because it's also the game before the international break and the mood. It's always critical you go into an international break with a positive mood because it lingers for a long period of time. And the last international break we went into with the greatest feeling ever, which was beating Liverpool, and that supercharged that international break basically. And I'm not saying that this will be of similar kind of joy, obviously not, but I'm just intrigued. I'm intrigued on two fronts: his selection for this game, and just the performance level of the players, because it isn't a big game, but it should be treated as a must-win.
Mm. No, absolutely, absolutely, and I think that's something which is so key in this race for top four as well because Chelsea are actually at the same point this season. I'm just mirroring it compared to last year, right? When everyone thought we were in an excellent run of form this time last year, Chelsea have this one less point. Um, and a lot of the teams around us are actually performing worse as well. So, with that being said, if you look at mirrors and how things are progressing, the fact that Chelsea secured Champions League football on the final day of the season isn't actually that far fetched given just looking at history. So it's very important that Chelsea do their best to sort of improve that. I think that, if we should be picking up more points, I think it's a lot tighter as well still. So Chelsea can fall right down the table and go right up the table. So that's something where we need to just be very, very careful and conscientious of the situation that we're in. So for me, just as long as Chelsea secure the points here, I actually look. I think Arsenal, I'll be very honest, is a write-off. As much as I'd love to hope it's not, unless we score 4 or 5 goals, which means they definitely won't get our record. I'm also very worried about that this season. Um, but I think that realistically, look, it's picking up those points now where Chelsea need to just get the job done. And that is the biggest thing with this Wolves game. I think I worry, like I said, I'm more worried about playing Wolves than I am playing Barcelona because the expansive football Barcelona play. Wolves will not be playing expansively, and they already nearly caused us a bit of a nightmare a few weeks ago, or a couple last week. It wasn't a few weeks ago; it was last week. Um,
Mm.
so we need to be careful of what we're dealing with and be aware of that. And I hope Maresca does do that, and hopefully he'll pick a strong 11 and not rotate too much. And speaking of that, Dan, let's pick the Echo 11. Chelsea versus Wolves. Okay, in goal, Robert Sanchez, left back, Cucurella, right back, Reece James, centre halves. I'm going with Josh and Trev. just because I just don't think Wesley Fofana's. I think he's a walking red card still. I'm still unsure about him. Um,
Fofana did have a good game against Spurs. I think you have to admit that. Like he
it's
did
all
have a
right.
good game against Spurs.
Yeah, but what did he have to
But
do? He didn't have to do
well, I
anything.
mean, listen, like, I mean, they didn't really do anything in that
Nothing.
game. Uh, but I think, yeah, I'd like to see Josh start this game. I mean, he hasn't started for 2 games, and it's like, why isn't he starting the third? Really, he's fresh, he's ready to go. But I think that's 50-50. I could see the justification for starting Fofana also based like aerially because I think aerially also Fofana helped
Yeah,
us defend
it's
against
true.
Spurs. Um, so I'm
You got
leaning
Josh
towards
Fofana.
Fofana, but I'm not. Yeah, I'm leaning towards Fofana, but I'm not against starting Josh because I think the annoying thing is he just should have started in midweek. So either or, I'd be content with for this game.
So, okay, do you want to do a rock paper scissors to decide it as we usually do? I would do flip a coin, but I don't actually have one to hand. In fact, you know, I'll do it on my laptop. Right? Heads or
Yeah,
tails? Heads or tails? Heads is Josh and Trev. Tails is Josh and Fafana. What do you think?
I'll go tails.
Right, you can go tails. Let's do this quickly. All right, flip tails. So we're going Josh and Fafana as our two centre backs. Okay. Um, midfield. Now, I guess that's where it does get maybe a little bit interesting. Liam Delap is unavailable. No, he's available again. Now,
No,
he's
he's
available, isn't
available again. It was only
he? Right.
one. It was only one game.
Okay, so that means that we don't have to think about João Pedro up front. They're saying Palmer could be knocking about, but I wouldn't risk him against Wolves. I don't think it's worth it. So I'm going Enzo Caicedo and João Pedro. Happy with that?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going for Estevao on the right because he should be starting now.
Yes.
The comments, I think when Maresca, I literally just saw it, where he was saying, what was he saying about um, Josh Acheampong being like, oh, should he be starting? I'm like, yes, he should be starting. Let me just quickly find the quotes for you.
Have you seen this stat about Estevao that Data MB put out?
It's got
Um,
data in it, so probably not.
so as Premier League wingers this season, expected assist per 90 and XG per 90
Okay,
um, on a graph, and I'd suggest people go and view it because out on his own in the top right, literally the top right of this graph is Estevao. He is head and shoulders above the rest, and this includes Gakpo, um, Leandro Trossard, Mohamed Salah,
Moses.
um, Matthias Cunha's in here. Obviously, Eze's in here as well. It's so clear how good he's been and how effective he's
Yeah,
been, especially XG per 90. But I think it really does summarize how good he's been. I saw another stat that kind of just sums up really again Premier League wingers and attacking midfielders XG plus expected assist per 90. Estevao 0.84. The closest to him in the Premier League on 0.53 is Cody Gakpo and David Brooks. So it's it's obvious he just makes so much of a difference to our attack. Um, so I just be sat there scratching my head really if he doesn't start this game, especially this kind of game. You can go with Spurs and go, it's a big away game. We're playing kind of in a more counter-attacking
yeah,
stance away from home.
yeah.
At
I
home,
think,
where literally Wolves are going to sit back and give us the ball. It's
yeah.
the game stays there for Estevao.
But this is it. I mean, look, I'm reading through Maresca's quotes now. One that's really got me, he said, we was asked by Bobby Vincent if he has a long throw plan. Yes, we have, but not now. This is the bit that got me. I like to evolve as a coach. Don't know if you do, Enzo. Um, if the long throw can be a solution, but not at the moment, it's just very clearly a solution in modern football, Enzo. But okay, we'll agree to on that one. And obviously, he's talking about Wolves and how they need to deal with that, and they're still trying to find a solution to long throws. And I'm like, okay, well, you actually showed you have a solution against Spurs. Let's use it again, please. Thank you very much. In terms of what he said about Estevao, Estevao is ready to start. If he starts, another one is on the bench who wants to start. We'll try to do our best for Estevao. We're helping him to adapt. Last week he was complaining about the cold. We're still in October. Imagine December or January. Okay, I mean the cold I get right, and something which we raised, but it's really again statistically because Chelsea love data. Very clear that Estelle is the best winger we have at the club right now. So just fucking play him, and then we can go from there. Right? You play your best players, and especially in a 38 game season where you're trying to contend for Champions League football, play Estelle on the right hand side. That's a given. Left hand side, I'm going Pedro Neto, just because I think he'll play, and I like Pedro Neto, and I think you have a nice
Yeah,
balance with
he's
Pedro
he's
Neto as
he's
well.
back in training. I mean, I can understand why Garnacho would sit there and go, "I came off the bench in midweek and I scored, and he did look pretty threatening throughout it. Really, he had a late shot saved as well. Um, but he just likes starting Neto. It's like there aren't many. We talked about this before. Like there aren't many lineups he starts without. The only
Mm.
thing I would say is, um, in the sense of Neto is, it's not that he doesn't make runs to the back post, but it's more that Neto is someone that usually of kind of the percentage. I probably have to look at a graph by this, right? But like percentage wise of when he's looking of like of where Chelsea attack and
Yeah,
who from a wide position is crossing the ball rather than the one trying to get on the end of it. And my only worry with having Estevao on one side and Neto on the other is that you then have two players who maybe are a bit more, they prefer to be the creators rather than the finishers. So if a ball's being played from right to left, is Neto making that darting run to the
yeah,
back post to finish it? I mean, I'm not.
yeah,
I don't. Sometimes that's the case. I'm not entirely sure. I think Neto sometimes likes to stand more on the edge of the box. I think Garnacho is more, does have a bit more
yeah,
of that where I think he's going to make the darting run to the back post, and I think that we need off the ball runs. So
yeah.
I think tactically, I wouldn't mind seeing Garnacho start this game. Um,
Well, in
and
my head,
actually, in the Sunderland game, he was probably one of our best attackers actually before he got taken off. Like he wasn't that bad
yeah,
against. He scored the opening goal, and he was actually probably the most threatening attacker on the day where Chelsea didn't create much.
yeah, there is that. I do think that is a pretty strong case. However, I just don't think Garnacho is all that, and I'd rather have someone I could trust on the left. And I do think Pedro Neto would make those runs late into the box, but then all on the back end, sorry, back stick. But also, you're going to have Enzo Fernandez running from deep. You're going to have João Pedro, and you're going to have Liam Delap. So I'm not gonna lie, like I think there's plenty of options there, and I do think that when you've got a player like Cucurella who's probably going to be inverting and going forward as well, you want a workhorse on that side, and I just don't think Garnacho. Well, he's already proven he ain't one. Garnacho strikes me as a sort of player. It's like, okay, well, you lot do all the work, and I'm going to do something special. But the fact is, I'm not actually that special of a player, and I'm going to keep behaving like I'm Eden Hazard. You're not. Um, I'm not a fan of Garnacho, and I really don't see the value in him. I mean, yeah, he made some good runs. He's done all right. He had the other occasion where I'm like, yeah, cool, but he ain't been particularly special. But he behaves
Okay,
like he's got.
that is moaning. That is moan. That does qualify as moaning.
Yeah, it is moaning. Fucking yeah, it is. I sue me. I just don't see the value in him. I don't think he's that good. He was a waste of money.
There's the title for the podcast. I'm moaning. Sue me.
Great. I'll leave it with you to do the titling and stuff today then. But yeah, I just don't think Garnacho's all that. I think for me, I'd be Pedro Neto. We've done heads or tails again.
Oh no, I'll go Neto. I'm fine with Neto because I think
You go
Neto
Neto.
probably does play.
Yeah, okay, cool. Right. So the Echo 11 for Chelsea versus Wolves, 8 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. You've got yourself Robert Sanchez in goal, left back Correa, right back Reece James. Your two centre halves are Wesley Fofana and Josh Achimpong. Your three in midfield are Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo, and João Pedro. Your left hand side sees Pedro Neto. Your right hand side sees Estevao Willian, the best winger in the Premier League. And up front, you see Liam Delap. Let us know your thoughts on that 11 down in the comments if you're listening on Spotify and if you're listening on YouTube or watching as well. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or any other platform, make sure you leave us a good review. Sub if you're listening or watching on YouTube. But I have been Louis.
I've been Dan.
This has been the Chelsea Echo, and we'll see you later.